Hello everyone, my name is Warren. In this tutorial, I would like to build an application using Spring Boot, MySQL, JPA, Hibernate, and Restful CRUD API. I'll be using Eclipse IDE to build this application. This video is intended for the beginners who want to build a similar application using these technologies, which is Eclipse IDE, Spring Boot, MySQL, JPA, Hibernate, and Restful CRUD API. So let's get started. That's about my introduction. So let's get started. After you download the Eclipse, normally it will be a zip file. Once you unzip it, it will be something similar like this. Now open this folder. You will find a eclipse.exe file. Double click on this, click on run. Just give few seconds for the Eclipse to load. It will ask for the workspace. Create a new workspace in the C drive. Okay, I'm creating a new folder called Spring Boot Rest API underscore. Let's start coding. Alright, the workspace name can be anything. So you can give any name to this workspace. Click on launch. It will take few seconds to launch. As you can see on my screen, I'm using a Eclipse Oxygen IDE. Okay, once Eclipse is open, you will get a welcome page. Just close it. As you can see, there are no projects. So let's get started by creating the project. File, new, Maven project. If you don't find the Maven project in the drop down or in the select field, you can go to others, go to the section called Maven, click on Maven project, click on next. Okay, in the first screen it will say select project name and location. Leave the default as it is. Do not change anything here. Click on next. In the second screen it will ask for select an archetype. So type here web app. Click on the web app, Maven archetype web app. Select Maven archetype web app. Click on next and give the group ID. I'm giving the group ID as com.let's start coding. Spring Boot artifact ID as Spring Boot REST API example. Alright, we have given the group ID and the artifact ID. Click finish. On your right hand side bottom, you can see the project is being created. Okay, now the project is created. If you just expand this, you can see Java resources. This is where you will have the Java class files and the resources such as application.properties and CSS file. And if you go to source main web app, this is the place where you give all the JSPs and the front end files. If you see the index.jsp, it's in error. Reason being, it says the superclass javax.servlet was not found on the Java build path. So it means the dependencies are not there. So for the first step is to add the dependencies in the pom.xml. Okay, go to your pom.xml. I already have my dependencies here, so I'll just copy it from here. Give the parent Spring Boot and which contains the version, group ID and the artifact ID. Now add the dependency. Okay, now we have added the dependencies. It has Spring Boot, Data JPA, Startup Web, MySQL. These are the various dependencies needed to execute this application. One point I would like to highlight here is whenever you add a data JPA dependency, the application expects a application.properties file. If you see the source main resources, it's empty. Now let's start, or let's create an application.properties file. How can you do that? Right click on source main resources, new, other, go to general tab, file, click on next, click on application.properties, click finish. If you see, the application.properties file is created in the resources folder. Here you have to give the details of data source URL, username, password, and the Hibernate properties, which I already have in my notepad. So I'll just copy them. So just save some time. So these are the things you need to enter in the application.properties. Data source URL is nothing but MySQL database URL, which is on the port 3306, and my database name is world. Username for my database is root, and the password is varun123. Also, this Hibernate properties, we define the dialect. Hibernate dialect is nothing but the MySQL file dialect, and the Hibernate DDL command I use as update. Basically, what update does is if there is any change in the table structure or any change in the table, it will update those details in the database. All right, now we have created the application.properties. Let's see if the dependencies and the application.properties are all built properly or not. Once you save it, it says it's building the workspace because I have already created the build automatically. You can see here index.jsp error is gone now. On top of it, we can also do a Maven Build. Right click on the project, run as Maven Build. The first time it will ask for the code, so you just enter clean install, click on apply, run. In the console, you can see if this is build is successful or not. Build is success. All right, so all the dependencies and application.properties are built without any errors. Now the next step is to add the Java files in a project. The first step is to create a model class. In my Java resources, if you see in Eclipse, there is no Java folder. To enable the Java folder, you right click on the project, properties, go to Java build path. You see the last two options are unchecked here. Select both, apply and close. Okay, now the source main Java folder is created. Now let's create the model class. New class. I'm giving the package as com dot, let's start coding dot springboot rest API example dot model. Give the class name as, click finish. Alright, the class is created in this package. As I told you, this is a model class. So the first step is to create add the annotation entity. It gives an error saying that entity cannot be resolved. Just right click on this error, quick fix, import entity javax.persistence. Alright, the next step is to add the annotation @table. Name, what this is basically whatever name you give here, the same with the same name table will be created in the database. So I'm giving employees. Again, right click on the error, quick fix, import the javax.persistence. The next thing is to enable the entity listeners, entity listeners, entity listeners, open bracket, auditing entity listener dot class. Quick fix, import the, alright, we have added these annotations. The next step is to create the column names in the table. Private long id, private string name, private string designation, private string expertise, private date created at, sorry, okay, import this should be a java util dot date, so import the java util dot date. Now we have defined the column names. In any table you'll have a primary key, so I'm defining my id key as the primary key, so for that I'll be using the annotation @id. Next, right click on this quick fix, import javax.persistent. Next, I want this id to auto generate or auto increment whenever I insert a new record into the table. For that I'll be using the annotation generated value strategy equals generation type dot auto. Right click, quick fix, javax.persistence. Alright, so I've created id annotation and generated value. So this id value will be incremented whenever a new record inserted into the database. The next step is to, I don't want these columns to be blank, so I'll add the annotation not blank. Just import this dependency. So add this annotation for all the fields. Okay, now we have added the field names. Just save it. Since this is a model class, we require a setter and getter fields. So we generate the setter and getter fields by right clicking on, right click on any of the uh, field here, source, generate getters and setters, select all, OK. So now the model class is created. Now let's do the Maven build again. Right click, run as Maven build to see if this class is built properly or not, or if there are any errors in my class. If you see in my console, it has given Maven build failure. The reason being no compiler is provided. Okay, in my system currently the compiler is JRE. If you build any new class, you should have a JDK. So I'm getting this error. So let me configure the JDK. Go to Window, Preferences, Java, install JREs. Here you can see it's JRE. I'll unselect this. I'll add a new folder. I'll select the JDK directory. In my case, it's in C, program files, Java, JDK. You should select the JDK which has the bin. So click OK, click Finish, select JDK, apply and close. Now let me do the Maven build again. Run as Maven build. You can see in the console now. Build is success. Alright. Now we have created the model class. The next step is to create a class employee repository which extends JPA repository. How do I do that? Let me create new class. This class I'm defining in the repository. I'll give this class name as employee repository. Click finish. Alright, so this class basically extends the JPA. I've already added this dialect, so I'll just copy this so that it will save some time for us. Okay, alright. So if you see this class, it basically employee repository extends JPA repository, and in the JPA repository we give employee our model class as a reference. So just save it. Now we have created the repository. The next step is to create a DAO. So let's do that. How do I create my employee DAO? Right click, new class. My package name, I'm creating the DAO in the package called DAO, and my DAO name will be employee DAO. Click finish. Alright. So DAO nothing stands for employee data access object. This is where you, using the employee repository, we insert data using the employee repository and the model class employee. We insert data into the database. So the first step in DAO is to create the object employee repository. So first we have imported the employee repository. In Spring Boot, we should auto wire this particular object. Okay, it says auto wire. There's an error for the auto wire. Quick fix. Just import the auto wire dependency. Alright, we have created the employee repository object. Okay, so as I told you, DOO is the place where we insert, select, get the data from the database, update the data into the database using the employee repository and the model class. So we'll basically doing four operations here. First one is to save an employee. All right. Second one is search all employees. I'm sorry. Third is update an employee or get an employee. Last one is delete an employee. So these are the operations I'll be performing in this DAO. So first let's start with the save an employee. I'll be defining a method called public employee save. I'll be passing the parameter employee emp return employee repository dot this save. It says it cannot resolve, so just import this employee object or the model class. All right, so as you remember, employee repository extends JPA repository. So we have a predefined method called save. So we just pass the employee object to save, and using Hibernate and JPA properties, Spring Boot will automatically insert a record into the database. The next step is to search all employees. We define a method public list employee find all. Okay, so this return use employee repository dot find all. So this is a method which will return all the employees in the table. Just import java util dot list. All right, we have defined find all employees. Now we have to get an employee by id. So let's define that method public employee find one long empid return employee repository dot find one empid. All right, so this is a method where we get the employee by empid. Last, delete an employee by id. So let's define this method public void delete long sorry will be delete an employee by the object, so it should not be id. Employee emp, right? Employee repository dot delete all right, so we have defined the four methods, which is save, search all employees, get an employee by id, and delete an employee. Another thing you should take care is whenever you define a DAO, you should Spring Boot will expect a service annotation. So at the top of the class, just define the service annotation. Quick fix. All right. So now our DAO is ready. So till now we have defined a model, then we have defined a employee repository, and we have defined a employee DAO. All right. So let's do a Maven build till now. Run as Maven build. If you see, the build is success. All right, the next step is to create a controller which will access the DAO. All right, let's create the controller now. I'll be creating, right click on any of the package, new class. Your package name should be controller. Okay, class I'm giving as employee controller. Click finish. All right, so this is where all the URLs entered in the browser or through the Postman app will be handled. I'll be using a Postman to call the REST APIs. So this controller should be a REST controller. First thing is to use REST controller annotation. Import the dependencies. Okay. Next is to define the request mapping. Mapping double quotes company. So basically this will be the request mapping. On how it will be used I'll explain going forward. So just for now, add this request mapping. The first step is to create or save an employee. So first let's build the save method. All right, because controller will be accessing the DAO, we should call the DAO, or we should create a DAO object, employee DAO. All right, I'll be using this as auto wired. Okay, now let's create the first step is to save an employee into database. I'll be using a post mapping at the rate post mapping open bracket, I'll say employee and, or I can say employees. Okay, public employee create employee at the rate valid at the rate request body space employee emp. Here call the method employee DAO dot save. Okay, quick fix. Import all the dependencies. Okay, save it. So here whenever a URL is encountered with slash company slash employees, and if it is a request is of type post mapping, then this method will be called. This method will save an employee. Now next step is to create the get all employees. The next step is to get all employees. I'll be using @get mapping double quotes employees. If you see the difference, previous method was a post mapping and now we are using a get mapping. Employees public list employee get all employees. Return employee DAO dot find all. Just import the necessary. Yeah, so we have defined a method get all employees. So whenever a URL is encountered such as /company/employees, and if it is of type get mapping, get all employees will be created. The next step is to get employee by a particular ID. By empid. Right. Okay, let's define this. @get mapping /nodes open brace flower bracket open flower bracket ID. So we are using a path variable. Now define the method. This method will return response entity with a reference to employee get employee by ID. This is a method name. Here we define the path variable open bracket value equals ID space long empid and okay, we have defined the method. Just import the dependencies. Quick fix. Okay. All right. So this method first employee emp equals employee DAO dot find one empid. Call this method empid. All right. The next step, if emp equals null, with return response entity dot not found dot bell. This is basically the message you get in the REST when you call the REST API if you don't find that particular ID. Next, if it is not null, return response entity dot okay dot body you send the emp object. All right, so this method, whenever we get a request of get mapping with the URL as company /nodes/id, then this method will be called and it will get an employee by an ID. Okay, now we want to update an employee. How do we do that? Star update an employee by empid. So define the method as put mapping double quotes forward forward slash that should be employees forward slash open bracket id. Okay, now define the method public response entity open, give a reference as employee, update employee, define the path variable at the rate path variable value equals id space long emp id comma at the rate valid space at the rate request body space employee emp details. Okay, we have defined this method. Now we have defined this particular method. Okay, now here the first thing is to find that employee emp equals find this employee. We'll just use this one. Okay, after finding that employee, check if it's null. So we'll just use, if it's null, we'll just have to paste this code. All right, if it's not null, what you'll do, emp dot set name emp details dot get name. Okay, the next thing is emp dot set designation emp details dot get designation emp dot set expertise emp dot emp details dot get expertise. Okay, uh, for the created I forgot to add. Okay, let me see, let me finish this first. Okay, this is how. Okay, it must return a method, so let's return it. return before that I need to save this employee update employee equals empdao dot save. Okay, next return response entity update employee. All right, so we have added a method which will update an employee. Save it. The last step is to delete an employee. So for that we will add a method we will use the delete mapping double quotes forward slash nodes forward slash id. Define a method public response entity employee space delete employee delete employee at the rate path variable open bracket value equals double quotes id space long empid. Okay, first find this employee. If this employee is null, return the error message. Now the last thing is to delete this employee. Dot delete emp and return response entity dot okay dot build. Okay, so with this we have defined all the methods in the controller. In the model class I've just forgot to add the date field for the created. I want the system related field to be added for this. So I'll add two annotations at the rate temporal temporal type dot timestamp, and another thing is at the rate last modified date. So these two annotations I forgot to add before. I'm adding them now. Quick fix. All right. So with this, my application is ready. Okay. So let's build the Maven build. Run as Maven build. Okay. The Maven build is successful. So now we have to add the Spring Boot file, which I'll be doing it in the package new class. The package name I'll be giving it as example employee application. Click on finish. Okay, here you add the annotation at the rate spring boot application. Import this Eclipse. Next thing is to enable JPA auditing. Enable JPA auditing. Okay. Now add the public static void method. Public just a minute. Add the public static void main string args. String is an array. Our class name is employee application dot spring application dot run. Okay, it should be control C employee application dot class and argument should be args. All right. All right. So now build the Maven build. Right click, run as Maven build. Okay, build is successful. Now we should deploy this application onto a Tomcat server. So I'll show you how to add a Tomcat server. Click on servers. There are no servers available. So first identify where your Tomcat server is. When you download a Tomcat server, it will be a zip file. Just unzip it. So my Tomcat directory is present in C drive. So now I'll configure this. Click on the servers, expand Apache. My Tomcat server version is 8.5.23, so Tomcat should be 8.5. Click on next. Browse the Tomcat directory which is in my C drive. Okay, you should browse for the Tomcat directory which has the bin. So I'm selecting this Apache Tomcat which has bin. Click OK. Click next. Do not add this project into the Tomcat directory. Why? I'll show you in just a minute. Click finish. Alright, we have added the Tomcat directory to the servers. Now go to your Spring Boot application which is employee application. Right click, how to run as Java application. Now you check in the console. The Spring has started. Spring Boot has started. Okay. So this Spring Boot, when you run the Spring Boot application as a Java application, it automatically starts the Tomcat server. It automatically starts the Tomcat server. Alright. So now our application is deployed onto the Tomcat server. So first let's test the REST API. You remember in the REST controller we have defined this company followed by employee. So first let's save an employee. How do I do that? Open Postman. Alright. In the Postman, first option is to select post and give the ID as company / employees. Okay. In the body, select raw format. Here you give what are the fields in my, it should be name. So name colon, it should be Varun, then it should be designation colon, designation is senior consultant, comma, then expertise is SAP PI PO middleware and Java J2E. Alright, so now click on send. Okay, here it should be notes employees. Click on send. Maybe I'll just select. Okay, I forgot to select, so it should be raw JSON application. Now click send. it says bad request. Okay, some error. All right, I think my date should not be not blank. So let me save this. When I make a change to my model class, it will automatically save and start the server. So my date should not be, because it's a created date, so I should remove the not blank. Let's see now. Send. Okay, now you see this, the response is okay, status is okay. Now I can check in my MySQL server. Let me open MySQL. Varun 123. Okay, okay, now select this query, select star from world.employees. See, this particular record is inserted. ID1 created at designation expertise name. All right, let me add another one. Arisha, project manager, expertise, project management, project management. Click on send. See the response. It says bad request. Why? Let me see what is it I did wrong here. What is it I did wrong? Okay, sorry. Here, music. Yeah. Now click send. See, this record status is okay. Now go and check the database. Now there are two records. All right. The next step is to, so our save method is working fine. The next step is to get all the employees. I'm using a get mapping. So when you post map, instead of post, you use get and click on send. You see, we have received all the records which are there in the database. The next step is to search by an employee of a particular ID. So all you need to do is go to your post map, select get, and after you just give the ID number 1 and click send. Varun. Give the ID number 2, click send. Arisha. So even the search is working. Now let's work on the update. For that update, I should use put mapping. All right. Here, project management and expertise, I'm just changing it to sorry. I'll just close the Postman and again open it to show the. Sorry. Okay, select put, go to the body. Okay, employee 2. Here I'm giving the project management and account deliverables. All right, now click send. If you see, before I send, previously expertise for Arisha was project management. Now I'm updating the expertise as project management and account deliveries. Let's see if it gets updated or not. See, I got the response 200. Okay, I can check in the database also. You see this project management and account deliverables. All right, the last one is to delete an employee. I'll just select delete and I'll give employee ID 1. Click send. You see the response is okay. Now I can go and check my database. So the ID is deleted. So with this I have shown you all the operations of REST API, which is save, find all employees, get an employee by ID, update an employee and delete an employee. I'll also update this code in the GitHub, where I'll share the URL in the description of my YouTube video. Thank you. Hopefully you have liked this video, and hopefully this will help for the beginners who want to build a similar application. Thank you.